The first thing I remember is the sound of everyone laughing. I was standing in my sister's living room, paper plate of sheet cake in my hand, when she clinked her wine glass and went, loud enough for the whole room to hear. "Look at this dollhouse, Emma. Aunt Emily is still playing house. Now she's just getting you to do it too." People chuckled. Someone actually snorted. My niece Emma, the birthday girl, froze with one tiny plastic chair in her hand, like she suddenly knew she was part of some joke she didn't understand. I forced a smile. My cheeks were burning. I stared at the dollhouse I'd spent weeks picking out. 3 stories, tiny little lights, the cutest little fake kitchen, and tried to swallow the lump in my throat. Then my sister, Karen, decided to crank it to maximum humiliation. She turned to our cousins and raised her glass. I mean, look at her. 28 and still playing house with her cats, like she's in some Pinterest fantasy. Most people grow out of that phase, but Emily is committed to the bit. This time the laughter was louder. Not the kind that feels warm and safe. The kind that feels like everyone's laughing at you because they are. I remember my dad staring way too hard at his cake. My mom doing that tight, uncomfortable smile. My aunt looking anywhere except at me. Karen took a sip of wine and kept going. Don't get me wrong, the cat lady lifestyle works for some people. Very low maintenance. No real responsibility. Must be nice to have all that freedom, right? What do you even do all day, Em? Arrange throw pillows and cook fancy meals for one. Another ripple of laughter. I felt something in me go very, very still. Because 5 minutes earlier, I checked my phone. And I knew what time it was. And I knew what was about to happen. So I took a breath, looked my sister straight in the eye, and said calmly, "You're absolutely right, Karen. I have been playing house." I set my plate down on the counter. But here's the thing about playing house. I could hear a car door slam outside. If you do it long enough, sometimes it stops being pretend. And right on cue, the front door opened. A man stepped in, sunlight at his back, gently carrying a sleepy little girl in a yellow dress. He kissed the top of her head and said, in that soft dad voice I know so well, "Hey, princess. Go to mama." Her head popped up, curls flying. Her eyes found me. And right there, in the middle of my sister's living room, on the day she decided to roast my sad single life in front of our entire family, my daughter threw her arms out and squealed, at the top of her lungs, "Mommy." Hey, Emily. I'm 28, I live in the suburbs, and according to my sister, I've been a tragic cautionary tale for the last 6 years. At least, that's how she tells it. We grew up in a pretty normal, middle-class American family. Think minivans, PTA meetings, crock-pot dinners. My parents had this very traditional idea of what being a real adult looks like: college, marriage, house, kids. Preferably in that order. Preferably by 30. My sister Karen took that and ran with it. She got married at 22 to her college boyfriend, popped out 3 kids by 26, bought a house with a fenced yard and a mudroom full of tiny shoes. If you looked up Facebook mom in the dictionary, her profile would be there. Seasonal family photos, matching pajamas, inspirational quotes about coffee and chaos. Me? I did. The other thing. I moved to the city. I focused on my career in marketing. I traveled. I bought nice furniture that wasn't from the clearance corner. I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment with great light, too many throw blankets, and 2 cats, Oliver and Luna, who I absolutely treat like tiny furry royalty. And here's the thing, I was happy. But in Karen's mind, my life was basically a waiting room. Like I was killing time until my real life started. You know, when a man showed up. She never said that directly. It was always in the little comments. At family dinners. Must be nice having all that free time. I can't remember the last time I slept past 6 a.m. But hey, enjoy it while it lasts. If it ever does. At Christmas, when I brought homemade macarons. You had time to make these from scratch? Wow. I'm lucky if I can microwave chicken nuggets without someone crying. When I posted a picture of my apartment after I redid the living room. Your little place looks cute. It's like a starter home. Without the starter husband. And her favorite line. the one she came back to over and over, like it was her catchphrase. "Oh, Emily's just playing house with her cats." She said it when I talked about my new cookware. She said it when I hosted my first Thanksgiving and cooked for 12 people by myself. She even said it when I proudly showed everyone my new kitchen after a big renovation I'd saved up for. Wow, all this just to heat up Fancy Feast, huh? Everyone laughed. I laughed too, because what else was I supposed to do? But it started to wear on me. The worst part wasn't just Karen. It was watching everyone else slowly adopt her script. My aunt started asking in this weird baby voice, "How are your fur babies?" whenever she saw me. My cousin asked if my landlord allowed me to claim my cats as emotional support dependents, since they're basically your kids. Even my grandma, who I adore, joked that I was married to my career and my cats. It was like the family had voted and unanimously decided, Emily is the fun, slightly pathetic cat aunt. Not a real adult. Not really. Serious. They had no idea how wrong they were. About 2 years before that birthday party, I was at a work conference in Chicago. You know the kind, bad coffee, lanyards, endless PowerPoints about synergy. It was the second day, I was exhausted, and I'd just escaped to the hotel cafe between sessions. I grabbed a latte and collapsed at one of those tiny marble tables. That's when he asked if he could take the other chair. He had kind eyes, dark hair, and that kind of tired, rumpled look like he'd been on for way too many hours. His name was James. We started with the usual conference small talk. Where are you from? Which sessions have you gone to? And somehow, 30 minutes later, we were still talking. He had this calm energy I really liked. Funny, but not performy. Smart, but not showing off. Then his phone buzzed. He glanced at it and smiled in this way that completely changed his whole face. "Sorry," he said. "That's my daughter's daycare. They send me pictures when she's having a good day." "Oh," I said, surprised. "You have a daughter?" "Yeah," he said, and his voice shifted into this soft, proud tone I will never forget. "Her name's Sophie. She just turned 3. He turned his phone to show me. There she was. Tiny, curly hair everywhere, cheeks like apples, grinning at the camera with a plastic dinosaur in each hand. Something in my chest did a weird little flip. He told me, matter-of-factly, that Sophie's mom left when she was about a year old. No big dramatic build-up, just the truth. One day she packed a bag, said she wasn't cut out to be a mom, and left. She signed away her rights not long after. I thought it would crush me, he said quietly. But then I'd walk into Sophie's room and she'd reach for me and, "You just keep going. You figure it out." He looked at the photo again, and I swear his eyes softened like he was seeing her in real time. "She's everything," he said. "I don't do anything without thinking about how it affects her first." I should have been terrified. Single dad. Complicated ex. A whole human being whose life I'd be stepping into if this went anywhere. But instead, I felt curious. Drawn in. Because here was a man who actually understood responsibility in a way my sister's snide comments never did. He wasn't romanticizing parenthood. He was just showing up. We started seeing each other slowly. Coffee dates between sessions turned into long phone calls when we got back home. We lived in different cities but only about 45 minutes apart, so weekends became this sacred thing where we'd trade off driving. For the first few months, it was just us. No Sophie. Not because he was hiding her, but because he was protecting her. He'd made that mistake once, introduced her too soon to someone he thought would stick around, and when that woman left, Sophie didn't understand. She just knew someone she loved was gone. "I won't put her through that again," he told me. "So if this stays casual, that's totally fine, but she can't be part of it." I thought about it. Really thought about it. And the more I knew him, the more I felt like, no, this wasn't casual. So about 6 months in, he asked if I'd be open to meeting Sophie. I was more nervous for that than for any job interview I've ever had. We met at this children's museum halfway between our cities. It was a Saturday morning, bright and loud and full of kids running around with those neon wristbands they give you at the door. Sophie clung to his leg at first, peeking at me with these big brown eyes. "Hey Sophie," I said, kneeling down a little so I wasn't towering over her. Your dad told me you like dinosaurs. Is that true? Because I need to know if you can help me find the best ones in there. She studied me like a tiny FBI agent. Then she nodded. Very solemnly. And that was that. We spent 3 hours in that museum. She dragged us from exhibit to exhibit, the pretend grocery store, the water table, the dress-up stage. Every time she turned to show me something, she checked my face like, "Are you actually paying attention? Are you really here?" I made sure the answer was always yes. At lunch she announced, loudly with chicken nuggets in her mouth, "I like her, Daddy. She listens and she didn't touch my hair." Apparently that's high praise when you're 3. On the drive home that night, I realized I'd gone from being anxious about meeting a child, to missing her. In one day. That was the beginning. It wasn't instant, Mommy. It was gradual. For a long time, I was Emily. Then Emmy. Then Mama Emily. The first time she called me Mama was by accident. She'd had a nightmare during a sleepover at James' house. He was in the shower when she started crying. I went in, sat on her little unicorn bed, rubbed her back, and whispered to her about how the bad dream couldn't follow her into the real world. She sniffled, hiccuped, and curled into my side. "Thanks, Mama Emily," she mumbled, already half asleep. My heart did that weird stop-start thing again. James found us like that, me wide awake, staring at this tiny person who just claimed me, her breathing slow and even against my shoulder. "Did she just?" he whispered from the doorway. I nodded. Couldn't talk yet. Later he asked, "How do you feel about that?" "Terrified," I said honestly. "And completely in love with both of you." We didn't make any huge decisions that night. But that was when we started saying the quiet part out loud. He told me Sophie's biological mom had signed away all parental rights. That if we ever got married, and if I wanted to and Sophie did too, adoption could be an option. But only if you're all in, he said. Being a parent isn't something you can do halfway. If you're even a little unsure, I need you to tell me now. I thought about the Children's Museum. I thought about her tiny hand in mine. I thought about the way she looked at me like I was safe. "I'm in," I said. I've been in since she dragged me to that fake grocery store and made me be the cashier for 45 minutes. About 8 months before the birthday party incident, I moved in. We found a rental house with a backyard and an extra room that Sophie immediately declared the cat playroom. She helped me pack my old apartment, helped being a generous word for scribbling pictures of cats on every box. Oliver and Luna adjusted in about 3 days. Sophie adjusted faster. "Mama, where's your toothbrush?" She asked that first week, like it was obvious that my toothbrush now belonged in our bathroom, not the guest bathroom. 2 months after that, Mama Emily became just Mama. We were eating dinner, talking about absolutely nothing. She was recounting some drama from preschool where another kid had licked her crayon, and she said, "Mama, can you pass the ketchup?" Like it was the most natural thing in the world. James and I locked eyes over the meatloaf. Later that night, I asked her gently, "Are you okay calling me Mama?" "You don't have to. You can call me Emily if that feels better." She gave me this look like I'd just asked if she was okay with gravity. "You are my Mama," she said. "You make my lunch and read me stories and help me brush my teeth and you love me. That's what mamas do." Okay then. So here's where the secret part comes in. In my day-to-day life, I went from single cat lady to full-time partner and 3rd grade level math tutor very quickly. But to my family, nothing had changed. I didn't tell them right away. At first, it was just self-protection. I wanted to make sure we were solid, that Sophie felt secure, that I wasn't bringing in a whole Greek chorus of opinions while we were still figuring out our own rhythms. Then as time went on, it became nice, peaceful, our bubble. For the first time, the voices in my head weren't my family's commentary about how far off track I was. They were Sophie's questions about why cats don't wear pajamas, or James asking if I wanted to try a new recipe together on Friday night. I told my best friend Mia, because she would have shown up at my door with police if I'd vanished into the suburbs without explanation. I told my younger brother Luke, because he's the opposite of Karen. Laid back, kind, not obsessed with everyone else's timelines. Both of them swore to keep it quiet. My parents? My sister? The rest of the family? Nothing. For months, I dodged questions. So, seeing anyone? My mom would ask on FaceTime. Work has been crazy, I'd say. Which was true. Work was crazy. And also I was making dinosaur-shaped pancakes every other morning. At one family dinner, I tried to drop a vague hint. I've had a lot of big changes lately, I said. I'm thinking about sharing some news soon. Karen rolled her eyes. Oh my God, are you getting a third cat? Or did you finally buy a house to play domestic goddess in? Everyone laughed. It hit me then how certain they were. That they knew my life. That they had me figured out. That there was no room in their mental picture for the version of me who packed preschool lunches and attended dance recitals. So when my niece Emma's 5th birthday rolled around, and my parents asked if I was coming alone, I hesitated. James and I had been talking about when and how to introduce him and Sophie. We could do a dinner, I suggested. Something calm. Neutral territory. He grinned. Or we could show up to your sister's princess-themed chaos and let them figure it out in real time. I stared at him. He shrugged. Let them underestimate you one last time. Then we walk in and tell the truth. We ended up with a compromise. Edie go first, solo. See how things felt. If Sophie woke up from her nap feeling okay, she'd had a little cold that week, he'd bring her by. And that's how we get back to that living room. To the dollhouse I'd carefully picked out. To my sisters, still playing house with your cat's speech. To my phone in my hand, lighting up at 3:42 p.m. James. She's up. Feeling better. Want us to come? Me. Yes. Time to stop playing pretend. When James walked in carrying Sophie, time actually slowed down. You know those moments you can feel your life pivot? Like a movie freeze frame? That was one of them. My mom's jaw literally dropped. My dad blinked like he'd taken off his glasses and couldn't see right. My grandma squinted like maybe this was a magician's trick. James, bless him, just smiled like this was totally normal. Hey, he said, like he was walking into any other gathering. Sorry we're late. Somebody needed her beauty sleep. He kissed Sophie's forehead. She woke up asking for Mama, he added, eyes finding mine. Go on, kiddo. Go to Mama. Sophie twisted in his arms, saw me, and lit up. Mommy. She shrieked. You're here. Every head in that room snapped toward me so fast I'm surprised no one needed a chiropractor. She practically dove into my arms. I spun her around once, because that's our thing, and she tucked her head into my neck like she'd done it 1,000 times. Because she had. Hi baby, I said, kissing her curls. How you feeling? Good, she said. Is this the princess party you told me about? That's right. Remember your cousin Emma? It's her birthday. Sophie scanned the room and spotted the dollhouse. And Emma. And the tiny plastic cake still sitting on one of the miniature tables. She gasped. Mama, she whispered, not quietly at all. Can I play with that princess house? I smiled. We have to ask Emma. It's her special present, okay? Sophie nodded like I'd just explained a legally binding contract. The room was dead silent. Even the kids had stopped yelling. James walked over to my parents, stuck out his hand, completely unfazed. You must be Emily's mom and dad. I'm James. This is Sophie. My mom took his hand like her brain was buffering. Oh, yes. Hi. I'm Linda. This is my husband, Mark. I've heard so much about you, James said warmly. Emily makes your lasagna recipe all the time. Sophie asks for it at least twice a week. My mom blinked again. She does. Sophie wriggled out of my arms and marched over to the dollhouse. Emma was still sitting in front of it, wide-eyed. Hi, Sophie said shyly. I'm Sophie. My mommy said it's your birthday. Your house is beautiful. Emma stared at her. At me. Back at her. Then, because kids are better than us, she smiled. Do you want to play with me? She asked. We can put the family in for dinner. Yes, please, Sophie said, already kneeling beside her. Within 30 seconds, they were deep in negotiations about where the tiny dog should sleep. I swear I heard at least 3 adults exhale at the same time. James slid an arm around my waist. You okay? He murmured. I think so, I whispered. Maybe. Ask me in an hour. That's when my cousin Brett, the human embodiment of a Reddit comment section, blurted out. Wait, Emily, you have a kid. Since always, Sophie called out, not looking up. Mom has had me since I was little. James chuckled. Her sense of time is a little off. We've all been together for almost 2 years now. Emily moved in about 8 months ago. My mom's voice cut through the noise. 2 years? She asked, looking at me like she was seeing a stranger. Emily, why didn't you tell us? I took a deep breath. Because I wanted to do it right, I said. Sophie didn't ask for her life to get more complicated. We wanted to make sure this was permanent before we brought a whole extended family into it. Karen finally found her voice. Her face was wild. Confusion, anger, embarrassment, all fighting for space. So, what? She demanded. You've been just hiding a whole fiancé and child? While we all worry about you living alone with your cats. Oh, we're not engaged, I started to say. James cleared his throat. About that, he said. And suddenly he was no longer standing next to me. He was on one knee. In the middle of my sister's living room. At her kid's birthday party. Holding a little velvet box. I heard my mom gasp. I heard someone drop a fork on a paper plate. Sophie's head popped up. Her eyes went huge. Daddy! She squealed. Is that the special ring? It is, he said, smiling up at me. Should I ask Mama the special question? She nodded so hard her pigtails bounced. Okay, he said. Then he looked at me, and everything else fell away. Emily, he began, you walked into our lives when we were both pretty broken. He looked over at Sophie for a second. Sophie didn't need another adult who would come and go. She needed someone who would sit on the floor and play dinosaurs and read stories and still be there the next morning. You've been that person. You've been her mama in every way that matters long before we ever talked about paperwork. He took a breath. And me? I didn't think I'd ever get another shot at this. At being in love and being a dad. You proved me wrong. You made our house a home. You made our little family feel complete. My eyes were already overflowing. Will you marry us? He asked. Both of us. Yes, I whispered. Then louder. Yes. Of course, yes. Sophie launched herself at us, wrapping her arms around both our necks in a lopsided 3-way hug. Everyone started clapping. Someone cheered. My grandma dabbed at her eyes with a napkin that said, Happy birthday, princess. James slid the ring onto my finger, vintage, style, simple, perfect, and kissed me. Over Sophie's head, I saw Karen watching us like she was trying to rewrite the last 6 years in her mind. Emily, she said finally, voice small, I didn't know. I know, I said quietly. That was kind of the point. She swallowed. I just thought you were alone. And I guess I made fun of that because it scared me. I nodded. Thing is, even when it was just me and my cats, I wasn't broken. My life wasn't less. It was just different. And that would have been okay too. She looked down, eyes shiny. I'm sorry, she said. For all the comments. For all of it. I appreciate that, I said. But I need you to really understand something, because Sophie is watching now. We both looked over. Sure enough, Sophie was half listening while she made the dollhouse dad sit in the blue chair, because it matches his eyes like daddy's. I never needed your approval to be happy, I told Karen. And I don't want Sophie growing up thinking she needs anyone else's either. Karen nodded. Got it, she whispered. No more cat lady jokes. Good, I said. Because for the record, the cats are absolutely part of this family. They're just bad at taking constructive feedback. She laughed, a little watery.
Can we start over?
With James and Sophie? With you. I looked at my fiancé, now on the floor in his nice jeans, helping two 5-year-olds arrange tiny plastic furniture. Yeah, I said.
We can.
The rest of the party was a blur. My mom pulled me into the kitchen and cried into my shoulder for a solid 5 minutes, alternating between "I'm so happy for you" and "I can't believe you didn't tell me." My dad took James outside to see the grill, which is apparently dad code for "I'm going to interrogate you while pretending to care about propane." My grandma sat Sophie down and asked if she liked cookies, and Sophie looked at her like she'd just asked if she liked breathing. By the end of the night, Sophie was calling my parents grandma and grandpa, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. A few days later, Karen asked to meet up.
Just the two of us.
We got coffee at this little place downtown. She looked tired. Not mom of 3 kids tired. Deeper. "I need to tell you something," she said, stirring her drink even though she'd gotten it black. "I've been not okay." She told me she'd been struggling with postpartum depression after her youngest was born. How she felt trapped in this life she loved and resented sometimes. How seeing my freedom, or what she thought was freedom, made her feel like she'd missed out on something. "So I made fun of you for it," she said. "Because if I could convince myself your life was sad, I didn't have to feel sad about mine. It didn't erase all the hurt. But it did. Explain it. I started therapy," she added quietly.
"After the party.
Watching you walk in with all of that, with James, with Sophie, with this whole world I didn't know about, I realized how much I was projecting my own stuff onto you. I'm working on it." For the first time in a long time, I saw my sister instead of this cartoon villain version of her I'd built in my head. "I'm glad," I said. "For you. Not just for me." She smiled a little. "And for the record? I think you're going to be an amazing mom. Like, annoyingly amazing. Pinterest boards and everything." "Oh, absolutely," I said. "Sophie's snack game is about to be elite." We both laughed. It felt like turning a page. Fast forward 6 months. James and I got married 3 weeks ago in my parents' backyard. It was small. String lights, folding chairs, my uncle's Bluetooth speaker pretending to be a DJ. Sophie walked down the aisle in a tulle dress, clutching a little basket with our rings at the bottom under a layer of flower petals. "Because I'm both mama," she told me proudly. "Flower girl and ring bearer. I'm double important." She scattered petals with deadly seriousness, then whispered to James halfway down, "Daddy, don't forget to say 'I do' or it won't work." Oliver wore a bow tie for approximately 4 minutes. Luna hid under the bed until it was time for photos, then photobombed every picture by wandering directly into frame. Karen stood up at the reception and gave a speech that made half the room ugly cry. She apologized. Not just to me, but to everyone who'd ever felt judged by our family's invisible timeline. "Watching Emily, James, and Sophie together," she said, "taught me that family isn't about when you do things or whether you follow the rulebook I made up in my head. It's about whether you show up, day after day, in the small ways that matter." My grandmother, never one to miss a moment, clinked her glass and said, "This one," she pointed at Sophie, "needs a little brother or sister. Chop chop." Sophie enthusiastically agreed. "Yeah, Mama," she said later, tugging my dress. "We need a baby. I'll teach them about cats." The adoption process is almost finished now. We met with a lawyer. Because Sophie's bio mom signed away her rights and hasn't been in contact, everything should be finalized by Christmas. Sophie's been practicing writing her new name on every scrap of paper she can find. "Sophie Emily Parker Miller," she says proudly.
"Because I am everybody S."
She started kindergarten this fall and accidentally created a little support group. Her teacher told us she started something called the Mixed Up Families Club. Apparently, it's just her and a bunch of other kids talking about their extra parents and bonus siblings, and what it's like to have stepfamilies, single parents, grandparents raising them, all of it. "Sophie talks about you like it's the most normal thing in the world," her teacher said at conferences.
"A mama who chose me and a daddy who got me first."
And suddenly, other kids didn't feel so weird about their own families. My mom, inspired by Karen, started therapy too. Old patterns are getting examined. Our family dinners are less about judgment now and more about who can get Sophie to reveal her secret cookie hiding spots. And me? Some nights I'm sitting on the couch with a cat on my lap, James' feet in my lap, and Sophie asleep down the hall, and I think about that girl my sister made fun of. The one with too many throw pillows and too much free time. And here's the thing I want you to hear if you're still watching this. She was enough too. My life before James and Sophie wasn't a prequel. It wasn't a waiting room. It was a whole, complete chapter where I learned how to be alone without being lonely. How to build a home I liked coming back to. How to take care of myself. Those years growing my career, traveling, spending Saturday mornings drinking coffee with a cat on my lap and no one asking for Paw Patrol? Those are part of what makes me a good partner and a good mom now. I didn't win when I got a husband and a kid. I just turned the page. So if your sister or your mom or your coworkers are making little digs about your life because it doesn't look like theirs yet, or ever, hear me when I say this. You are not behind. You are not less. Whatever chapter you're in right now is still your story. You don't owe anyone a plot twist. Sometimes the best revenge isn't a dramatic reveal at a birthday party, though I will admit, that felt incredible. Sometimes the best revenge is just living your life on your terms and being genuinely, unapologetically happy. Whether that's with 3 kids, 2 cats, a passport full of stamps, or all of the above.